Hey everyone, welcome. Today we're doing something pretty exciting. We're pulling back the curtain on one of the most secretive, high-stakes processes in the entire corporate world. How top-tier IT companies actually filter, evaluate, and hire their talent. Look, we all see the massive salaries, right? We see the glamorous offices. But actually getting into that room? That's a completely different story. So in this explainer, we're going to break down the exact strategies these giants use straight from the perspective of an insider who's actually sat on the other side of the table at places like Amazon and LinkedIn.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the 97% rejection reality, then look at why top colleges matter, uncover the mass recruiter illusion, go inside big tech interviews, and finally talk about preparing for the pressure.
All right, starting off with Section 1, the 97% rejection reality. To really wrap our heads around the sheer scale of the tech hiring machine, we have to look at a global giant like Netflix. When they post a single tech job on LinkedIn, and we're talking about a role that can pay the Indian equivalent of up to 7 crores, how many applications do you think they get in a week? 10,000? Maybe 20,000? The reality is actually kind of staggering. A single job posting can attract anywhere from 300,000 to 400,000 applicants globally in just 1 week. That volume is literally beyond human capacity to process manually.
So, with hundreds of thousands of applications pouring in, the immediate, brutal reality is that an incredible 97% of these applicants are rejected outright, just immediately, thrown out before a hiring manager even glances at their name. Now, you kind of have to ask yourself, why? Is this just some weird, sadistic pleasure the company takes in rejecting people? How on earth can a company throw away 97% of its candidates right at the front door? Well, I found this absolutely fascinating, because the truth isn't malice at all. It's just a complete lack of relevance. This massive rejection happens because the vast majority of applicants are blindly copy-pasting the exact same resume for every single job they find on the internet. A company like Walmart, for example, might be desperately looking for a highly specific data science expert, but 97% of the resumes flooding in are from people who work in completely unrelated areas, like back-end Java development, who just hit the apply button. The very first filter is simply asking one question: does this resume actually match the specific domain we're hiring for? And for 97% of people, the answer is just a flat no.
Which brings us to Section 2, why top colleges matter.
So how does this massive funnel lead to the highly debated bias toward top-tier colleges like MIT, Stanford, or the IITs? I mean, if tech is supposed to be a pure meritocracy, you'd assume pedigree wouldn't matter, right? But the answer boils down to pure, brutal efficiency. Hiring is immensely expensive. It's incredibly time-consuming. Companies know that society has already spent years filtering these students through rigorous entrance exams. So if a company goes to a top-tier institute, they might conduct 10 interviews and successfully hire 2 brilliant candidates. But if they go to an average, unranked college, they might have to conduct 10,000 interviews just to find one qualified person, and honestly, often they still find 0. It's not necessarily some ideological bias against lower-tier colleges. It's just that companies literally do not have the time, the resources, or the money to give 10,000 people a perfectly fair chance.
And to prove just how incredibly difficult this hiring process is, get this. LinkedIn once spent 1.5 years actively interviewing candidates for a single managerial position without filling it. 1.5 years. Either the candidates just weren't quite good enough, or by the time a great candidate was ready to join, they used the offer to negotiate a better salary somewhere else. Hiring is an exhausting, costly nightmare for these companies, which is exactly why they rely so heavily on the pre-filtered talent pools of top colleges.
Moving down the ladder a bit, let's look at Section 3, the mass recruiter illusion.
What about the massive base of the tech ladder, the mass recruiters? Here's a really fascinating reality I found about how they operate. You'd think they want the absolute best academic performers, right? Actually, scratch that. They often intentionally skip the 9-pointers and the 8-pointers during campus placements. Why? Because they know for a fact that a top-tier student will likely jump ship to a product company within a month. Instead, they specifically target the 6-pointers. These are the candidates who might not have other offers, meaning they're bound to stay, complete the intensive 6-month training, and actually stick around for at least 2 years to work on client projects.
And honestly, this shatters one of the biggest illusions in the IT sector, the whole American dream. A lot of employees at mass recruiters are promised a deployment to the US, but the reality is starkly different from actual big tech. Just look at the massive gap here. An actual Silicon Valley tech worker averages around $120,000 a year, with top levels making $300,000 to over $500,000. Meanwhile, service workers deployed from India are often sent to small, rural U.S. towns, making around $60,000 to $80,000. They end up living like misers, saving every single penny, avoiding travel, and living in small rooms just to save money to send back home. It looks like the ultimate American dream on social media, but on the ground, it's a remarkably frugal reality.
Now, what's really interesting about this next slide? Section 4, Inside Big Tech Interviews.
We've reached the absolute peak of the mountain here. Entering big tech is a marathon. A typical process at a place like LinkedIn can take an entire month and span up to 7 agonizing rounds. They start by heavily testing your domain-specific knowledge. For LinkedIn, that usually means graphs because their entire platform is fundamentally built on multi-level degree connections. Then, they throw you into system design rounds where they present entirely unknown, hypothetical problems that literally don't have answers in textbooks. After that, they bring in current developers to grill your past work line by line, checking if you're a culture fit before finally moving you to the manager round. It is a gauntlet. And as you navigate this gauntlet, companies like Microsoft and LinkedIn employ this fierce philosophy known as the bar raiser. They explicitly instruct their hiring teams that any new person brought into the company must be demonstrably better than at least 75% of the current team. They aren't just looking to fill a warm seat. They want someone who comes in and actively elevates the entire talent pool of the company on day one.
Meanwhile, companies like Amazon and Google approach this just a little bit differently. They are highly tech agnostic. They absolutely do not care if you call yourself a Java developer. They want adaptable software engineers who can solve a problem in C++ today and learn an entirely new language tomorrow. If you're junior, they're going to grill you endlessly on data structures and algorithms. But as you get more senior, the focus violently shifts. You might only write code in one round. The rest of the time, they're testing your ability to design massive systems and make architectural decisions that can seamlessly scale to billions of users.
So the crucial point is Section 5, Preparing for the Pressure.
How do you actually prepare yourself to survive this? At companies like Amazon, they might interview 500 highly qualified people just to hire one single software developer. 1 in 500? Well, the secret lies in this brilliant piece of advice given by an IIT physics teacher. He told his students, when taking practice exams, turn off the fan in your room. Sit in the sweat and the heat. Why? Because you never know what's going to happen on exam day. If the power goes out and you have only ever practiced in absolute comfort, your brain will panic. You have to tune your mind and body to perform flawlessly in the most uncomfortable, high-pressure environments imaginable. And this directly applies to tech interviews. There is a massive, crippling difference between easily solving a coding problem while lounging on your comfortable sofa at home versus trying to solve that exact same problem in a stark room while a senior Amazon hiring manager judges your every single keystroke. In that room, you've got 4 things racing through your mind: the fear of failure, the ticking clock, the judgment of the interviewer, and the realization that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Your brain's capacity just drops dramatically under that kind of pressure. So if you're only doing online courses in your comfort zone, you are going to freeze when you step into the arena. The people who get these jobs aren't necessarily the smartest. They're the ones who've trained themselves to crack complex problems in real time under immense, life-changing pressure. So I leave you with this. Is your interview preparation actually matching the intense pressure of the room you're trying to enter? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this gives you a whole new perspective on your career journey.